Hello everyone, welcome to a module on cardiovascular system. In this module, we will talk about cardiac output equations. Okay, please check the cardiac output variable module and then look at this video so that you find a good connect. Starting with the first equation, that is the equation of the stroke volume. Okay, so the stroke volume, as I've already told, is the amount of blood released by the left ventricle with each heartbeat, and it is measured as the difference between end diastolic volume minus the end systolic volume. It is a difference between end diastolic volume and end systolic volume. What is end diastolic volume? End diastolic volume is the volume of blood present in a completely filled left ventricle, which is just before contraction. Okay, just before the beginning of contraction, the volume present in the left ventricle is end diastolic volume. And what is end systolic volume? It is the amount of blood present in the left ventricle after emptying is complete and there is a beginning just before beginning of relaxation. Is it clear? So that is end diastolic volume and end systolic volume. Now let us talk about the second equation, that is ejection fraction. Ejection fraction is the ratio of stroke volume to the end diastolic volume, that is the amount of blood pushed upon the total amount of blood present in the heart. Is it clear? Since stroke volume is equal to end diastolic minus end systolic volume, we can write ejection fraction is equal to end diastolic volume minus end systolic volume upon end diastolic volume. Is it clear? Now it is usually around 55 to 60%. Okay, and ejection fraction is an index of ventricular contractility. So if someone has to test the contractility, which I've discussed in cardiac output variables video, contractility is usually tested by ejection fraction index. Okay, now there's a decrease in systolic heart failure. That means ejection fraction usually decreases in the systolic heart failure, whereas it remains normal in the diastolic heart failure. So it is a distinguishing feature of systolic and diastolic heart failure that if there is a decrease in the ejection fraction, it means systolic heart failure, and if the ejection fraction is normal, it means diastolic heart failure. Is it clear? Now let us talk about cardiac output itself. Okay, so the cardiac output is the multiplication of systolic volume or stroke volume into the heart rate. That means it is the amount of blood ejected by the left ventricle in 1 minute. Okay, since we know that heart rate is measured per minute, it is the amount of blood which is ejected by the left ventricle per minute. Okay, this is approximately 5 liters. Okay, and it is the multiplication of systolic volume into the heart rate. Now, by Fick's principle, okay, by Fick's principle, cardiac output can also be measured as the rate of the oxygen consumption by the body divided by the arterial oxygen content minus the venous oxygen content. Okay, this is a theoretical equation which is used. Is it clear? Now, in the early stages, this is a very important part which is highly tested. So, please pay attention. In the early stages of exercise, the cardiac output is maintained by increasing both of them, the heart rate and the stroke volume. Okay. Now, in the later stages of exercise, when there is a rigorous exercise that goes on, the stroke volume plateaus. That means the stroke volume is increasing, but then after a point, it reaches its maximal capacity and plateaus. Is it clear? Whereas the heart rate keeps on increasing. So, this is how what happens in cases of exercise. Now, diastole is shortened when the heart rate is very high. Okay, hence there is a decrease in the diastolic filling time. That means when the heart beats very fast, the blood coming back to the heart and then again pushed out becomes very less. Okay, so that means the stroke volume reduces drastically. when the heart rate goes up very much. So the cardiac output goes down. Is it clear? So when the heart rate is very high, the stroke volume goes down and the cardiac output also goes down because of decrease in the diastolic filling time. That means the time required to fill in the blood goes down, and hence the stroke volume decreases, and so does the cardiac output. Is it clear? So the graph between cardiac output and heart rate is usually this way. So when the heart rate is very high, the cardiac output starts decreasing. Is it clear? Now what is pulse pressure? Pulse pressure is the difference between the systolic blood pressure and the diastolic blood pressure. Okay. Now the pulse pressure is directly proportional to the stroke volume and inversely proportional to the arterial compliance. Okay. So it is inversely proportional to arterial compliance. Now the pulse pressure increases with hyperthyroidism, aortic regurgitation, aortic stiffening in cases of isolated systolic hypertension in adults, and obstructive sleep apnea, which leads to increase in the sympathetic tone, and also anemia and exercise. Okay, so I'll again repeat the cases of increase in the pulse pressure, that is hyperthyroidism, aortic regurgitation, aortic stiffening, obstructive sleep apnea, anemia, and exercise. Now, there is a decrease in the pulse pressure in cases of aortic stenosis. Since here it was regurgitation, here it will be stenosis. There's cardiogenic shock, cardiac tamponade, and advanced heart failure. So these are the changes in the pulse pressure which are very highly important and is tested again and again in the exam. So please remember these. Now let's talk about the one equation, that is the mean arterial pressure equation. The mean arterial pressure is measured by cardiac output into total peripheral resistance. Okay, so pressure is measured as output into resistance. Is this clear? Mean arterial pressure at a normal heart rate can also be measured with 2/3 of the diastolic blood pressure plus 1/3 of the systolic blood pressure, or another formula of it would be diastolic blood pressure plus 1/3 of the pulse pressure. Is it clear? Pulse pressure is usually systolic blood pressure minus the diastolic blood pressure. So it can be measured as diastolic blood pressure plus 1/3 of the pulse pressure, or cardiac output into total peripheral resistance. Is it clear? Now let's talk about the last equation or the last concept of cardiac output equation, that is resistance pressure flow. Okay, as I've already told you, the change in the pressure is equal to the cardiac output into the total peripheral resistance. Correct? And this is a replica of an Ohm's law. We have already discussed Ohm's law in a lower grades, that is the change in the voltage is equal to the current into the resistance. Okay, so the difference in the voltage is corresponding to the difference in the pressure. The current flowing is corresponding to the cardiac output, and the resistance is the total peripheral resistance of the blood. Okay, now the flow rate is measured as flow velocity into cross sectional area. Okay, I'll come to this in a while, but let me just tell you that how do we measure resistance. We always measure resistance that if two resistors are connected in series, we add them arithmetically, right? And if two resistors are in parallel, then we take the resistance in this format, that is 1 upon R equivalent is equal to 1 upon R1 plus 1 upon R2 plus 1 upon R3 and so on. Okay, so this is how we measure, but most of the blood supply in our body is in the parallel aspect, and hence the resistance keeps on decreasing, but there are a few which are in the series. Okay, now talking about the resistance of a circular cylinder, which is the capillaries or the arteries or the veins, it is measured as 8 eta rho L by A. Okay, so this is the actual equation of a pipe or a cylinder, where eta is the viscosity, length of the tube, and A is the area, that is the cross sectional area. We know resistance can also be written as delta P by Q by this equation, correct? And hence it is equivalent. Am I clear? Now let's talk about the biology aspect of it. The capillaries have highest total cross sectional area and lowest flow velocity. They have the highest total capillary cross sectional area and the lowest flow velocity. Always remember that. The pressure gradient drives the flow from the high pressure to the low pressure, as we all know, and the arterioles account for the maximum total peripheral resistance. Okay, so the maximum total peripheral resistance occurs in the arterioles. Is it clear? Veins provide most of the blood storage capacity of the body. So these are the facts that you have to remember. Capillaries have the highest total cross-sectional area and the lowest flow velocity. Pressure gradient drives usually from the from high to low pressure. Arterial accounts for the total peripheral resistance. Veins are a good storage of blood, and viscosity depends upon the hematocrit. Okay, now viscosity increases, that is actually the thickness of the blood increases in hyperproteic states like multiple myeloma or polycythemia, and it decreases in anemia. Is it clear? And viscosity affects the resistance directly. Is it clear? So these are all about cardiac output equations. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please click on the like button and do subscribe to this channel. Let me know in the comment section below which topics do you want me to explain. Thank you.